Hello, it's Neil Romanek from the Flint, and today's podcast. We're actually getting around to something that I've been wanting to do for ages, and that is covering sustainability in special effects, not visual effects, special effects. We can get into the differences later on. But I've got with us, I'm very happy to have with us Danny Hargreaves and Carmela Carrubba from Real SFX, based in Cardiff. Hi, guys.
Hi.
Hello, hi.
Hello.
Um, and Danny has just landed in Glasgow with 20 minutes of sleep or something like
You can
that.
tell the
So
bags. Yeah. So yeah, very grey Glasgow. So hopefully it will brighten up later.
yeah, and that's real great. That's not like a filter and then somebody with a rain
No, no,
thing
no,
out the
no. I'm
window.
coming out there doing rain on my window like I would, but no, no. It's all. I don't know if you can see, but yeah, I do like Glasgow. I've spent a lot of time working up here, so it's quite nice being back. So.
Amazing. Well, great. Well, I mean, let's jump into it. So maybe let's start by maybe telling me about your experience working in special effects and kind of maybe a bit about your career and how you started
Okay.
SFX.
Okay.
Um, and and then maybe through that we can also talk a bit about how what special effects was like versus what it's like now. And we can touch a bit on the sustainability
Okay.
aspects there if you want to, but that we were kind of talking a little bit before about the sort of movies that you grew up with or that I grew up with, like The Road Warrior and those big, gigantic, crazy black and fiery explosions, which were probably the most toxic things you can imagine, but were
Yeah.
gorgeous.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Well,
what's your experience been?
okay, so I've been in the industry myself for about 30 years. I first started very, very young in the industry. Well, I tell the story of lying about my age basically and did work experience at the age of 14. But really, I should have been 16. And basically, my journey was about a passion that I had for filmmaking. It was just something I just from the age of 12, 10, 12, watching movies like what you just mentioned there, really, like Aliens and Terminator and of course Mad Max. And it just really inspired me to get into filmmaking. So fast forward a few years, I've been very fortunate to have worked on some massive movies such as Star Wars and various other big action films. And then I sort of progressed into TV and sort of worked on big sort of primetime TV shows that were in the UK, such as London's Burning and Between the Lines and stuff like that. And then, well, sort of 15 years ago, I started my own company, Real SFX, and that was doing Doctor Who and Sherlock. And over those years, I've done Luther, Peaky Blinders, and I did the Expendables 4 movie last year, well, a couple of years ago, and yeah, and that's where we are now with Real SFX. And my wife Carmela, she came into the business a few years after I started Real SFX. Basically, we grew very, very quickly, and I needed help. And Carmela's background is more training in terms of she used to work for the airlines, and so it just seemed a perfect fit for her to come into Real SFX. And so she did the training, and I'll let her explain. But she's now taking on sustainability, which is something that she loves and has a real passion, and I think that's great because she's bringing that in. So yeah, that's kind of my story.
Hmm.
But it all started from a passion of film, passion of filmmaking.
Amazing. And then so Carmela, you're kind of the sustainability champion at the do you have so you don't really
Gosh,
have a
that's
do you
so
have like a sustainability title, or is it just kind of part of
no.
your general doing
I
everything all at once role?
I think for us, because Danny, let's face it, he does all the exciting stuff on stage. You know, he gets to do all the explosions and bits and pieces on stage. But I have a really good team, and we have got a good team. And because we're a young team, I think we embrace change. We know sustainability is important in the workplace. We have so many apprentices that come and work for us, and that's embedded in their training. There's a whole section of sustainability in their training. So for me, like Danny said, I used to be a performance manager. So it was like a natural fit for me to come into the workplace because I did look at, training and performances. I wasn't a production manager. I've got a really good production manager team around me. I look at what we bring in and what we do and how we train people. And I think that's where I've come in. And I'm not a sustainability champion because there's so much that we still need to learn. But, we've brought in companies like Picture Zero now that look at all our sustainability because they are the experts. I think there's such a big thing when it is to become green, and it's always revolving, that you need sometimes to bring professionals in that come in and have a look at your workplace. So yeah, it's definitely something we're doing at the moment. We're proud that we're doing well. One of the not only, but we definitely are making a difference in Real SFX at the moment.
It's like, I mean, it's interesting because that people talk about sustainability. It's like, okay, if we just get, I don't know, we'll get in electric vehicles, or we will fly less or whatever. And at the first hurdle seems like it should be technical, but I feel like that sustainability is often an HR job. It's you're organizing people, you're organizing
totally.
how you do things.
Yeah, I think I mean, when you mentioned earlier about what it was like in the old days. I've really noticed there's been a real shift the last sort of 2 years since we came out of COVID about sustainability. And yeah, I mean, it came at a point where it was very difficult in the industry. But I think people's passion to help the environment really shifted. And I don't know, it just, us as a company, we don't want to just tick the box, that kind of questionnaire that does come round and says, what have you done? And you go, well, I've done this, I've done that, I've done it. Okay, great, move on. I think for us as a company, we always go in deep whenever we take a challenge. When it comes to special effects, we go for it. And I think that's what we're trying to do with sustainability. And we don't want to be, as a company at Real SFX, not just the guys ticking a box. We actually want to do something. And so for that, we've done a few incentives. We've come up with new initiatives. We're starting to use different materials. It's not perfect. There are things that we still need to do. But as an industry, there are many changes that we can make, and it's just trying to make those small steps at the moment and trying to bring it to the forefront, particularly in my industry.
So what are some of the changes that have happened over the years? I mean, I know that it was you wanted black smoke and you set a bunch of tires on fire.
Yeah. Well, thankfully that kind of got better when we started using pyrotechnic smoke. And well, look, we still do, but those pyrotechnics now have been changed, so to speak. I think it's important, we still use some of the materials that we used back in the day, but it's about changing those materials, limiting those materials. Otherwise, we'll just find ourselves not being able to do certain special effects, and things will go to visual effects. And, it's important to have these practical effects on set, not only for the performance, but on a visual sense. It'd be very easy to build things in computers, but I think as an audience, people still want to see those kind of effects. So we have an obligation in special effects to really make those differences and looking at alternative materials. So when you come to pyrotechnics, there was a real shift a couple of years ago where certain materials were being changed, the squibs on people, all the pyrotechnics, they changed. They wanted to take the lead out of those pyrotechnics and replace it with more environmentally friendly materials. But that has its own problems. You've got to understand, I've been in the industry a long time. I know what certain pyros do and in terms of the explosive performance, but we had to relearn again because they weren't quite as powerful. So I had to learn how to work with these new type of pyrotechnics. So essentially I had to go back to school and learn how to work them out again. But these are things that we as a company had to take on. And then we sort of pressed on, and that's where Carmela came in. But in terms of the materials we use, we're just using more environmentally friendly materials. Instead of the consideration of diesel burning, we're using HVO fuel for our big smoke machines. propane. Propane, although a sort of fossil fuel, it still creates carbon, but not as bad as fossil fuel. So we kind of like try and use that instead of burning petrols and stuff like that when we have to do fire effects and stuff. So
Mhm.
we are trying to make a difference.
Are there, and maybe this is a question for you, Carmela, as well, are there any kind of, I don't know, sort of research or inventory of like kind of what the actual kind of bigger impacts of things are? Because as you said, it kind of
So,
a lot of these things, yeah, bless you, but that the kind of things you wouldn't have even really thought about, but like in terms of like, okay, how much water do you use in certain situations, or what is the carbon footprint of certain types of effects or anything? Has there been any work done on that?
yeah, so there's quite a lot of case studies at the moment, and I think this is where it goes down to individuals' productions and bits and pieces. So I think when it comes to all of that, you have to have the production that comes on board from the start. Me and Danny spoke about this earlier, and what is our impact? And if you have a good production company and has a sustainability person there from the start, I would probably say all of our productions go really smooth as sustainability, because then you're getting the case studies, you're finding out what all the other departments do, and you'll then be able to look at that research to go on to the next one. And there's not a lot. You've definitely have a notice on, I've got to be honest, we're very good in Wales, and we've just opened up a base in Bristol, very good there, and other places. But there we've got a Wales has a environmental, they had a bit with BAFTA recently, and you have the tools on BAFTA, as you know, that you can work out at the moment how to offset bits and pieces. So I think as long as you have a production on board from the start, that makes my job so much easier, because then you're talking to other suppliers. So you mentioned about water earlier. When we use our suppliers for our water effects, we'll make sure that they're quite good. They've got good knowledgeable, they're circulating water. I had a production recently that then removed any chlorine from it, so then it helps. So I think as long as you're talking to all the other people that want to make a change, the case studies are coming through at the moment. So you'll be able to look at what you'll be able to offset. So we use Ecology, so that goes through our whole, that we use that, and that goes through all our zero system. My counterpartment's on board now, so you'll be able to work out how much fuel you use, what you're doing. So you can go back to production right at the end of the production and say, right, we did this, but then we did this. And that really does make a difference. But you need to have all of those processes in place in your workplace, so then you can do a case study right at the end and work out what you can change. Simple things like crew mapping, making sure that your crew all travel together in one vehicle if you're on a location, because that makes such an impact than 7 cars going to one location. So if you speak to all your crew and say, look, come on, let's all get on board here. And this is where I said we've got a very good team. Our team understand that sustainability is really important in the workplace. So you are able to put those big changes in the workplace that will make an impact.
I mean, it doesn't come with its own, difficulties. Carmela, you can probably tell. Well, you can tell from Carmela, she's very passionate about it. So bringing those sort of systems into place into a special effects world is, it comes with difficulties, but at the same time, I think when particularly my team can start seeing the benefits, and it slowly comes through, so to speak. So with that passion, we're trying to change.
Have you been talking to other companies as well? Because I'm in a specialty like special effects. I'm sure it's loads of things that only that community really understands how they work, and you can't really come from the outside and go, oh, you guys should do.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, of course. I mean, I've got friends on different scales of production, some on all the Marvel films, and some doing TV shows. So there's definitely an impact. There are considerations that are happening. We're actually, Carmela's in communication with one of the chaps who's doing Superman at the moment, or Superwoman, sorry, Supergirl, and they're bringing in new battery systems to power up some of their wind machines and stuff. So we're taking some of that information and see if we can implement that where we are. So we're talking about that sort of thing. We're currently working on a water show. Actually, Carmela touched on water. It's about a town that floods with toxic, well, there's toxic waste involved as well. So quite topical. So my job is to create a storm with flooding a town. So normally, and we go back to what it was like in the good old days, we would bring in water from a treated water source, and then do the effects, and then dispose of the water.
Would it just get, where would the water go?
Well, this is the thing. I mean, back in the day, would have just gone down the drain, and
Right.
off we go, forget about it. But there's a consideration now that we can reuse that water, we can filtrate it, and we've brought in companies again who are outside contractors who work in film, and they now have a consideration, an obligation, so to speak, to try and help. So what they're going to do is provide the water, but at the same time bring the method of treating that water after we've used it. So if it is contaminated in terms of bodies, such as if it's chemicals such as chlorine, or it's got just spillages like paint in it or something, they can filtrate it, and then we can use that water again for doing wet downs on roads and stuff like that. So hopefully we'll just get like a couple of usage out of that water. So again, normally, and I have to hold my hand up, like, I would have just used the water and disposed of it and forgotten about it. But, particularly my mind has been changed now to start thinking a little bit more green. And, after 30 years in an industry that is very wasteful, it has been very wasteful. It's great that, people, even myself, has been turned to really think about those pollution and those environmental things.
Are there any financial benefits, or the bottom line benefits that you could see for doing anything greener?
I
mean,
mean,
eventually you're wasting less, so wasting less has got to be good, I
wasting
guess.
less,
But
yeah. I mean, it's a great point, and myself and Carmela do clash at times because financially, probably not. We do commit. We've bought a couple of electric vans. Which is something which is great. We've just bought these new CO2
They're not
effect.
CO2. They're not
Huh?
CO2. They're
No,
not CO2. That's
let me explain. CO2 effect, but they're using smoke in a very high pressured way to look like the CO2. So obviously CO2 is a gas and obviously environmentally unfriendly. So we've now switched to these new machines. So obviously big investment there from us. So I mean, for us, it's about the long haul. So if we become a company that is more sustainable than others, then potentially that looks good for us as a company. But I think on a personal level, myself and Carmela really do. We have a passion for it. I think she has quite a passion for it. And we have an opportunity as a company to really press on and see what we can do.
it's definitely more expensive, Neil. I'm not, it's like Danny says, it's up to you as a company. I was doing a lot of offsetting, and now I'm doing, instead of offsetting as much, we're insetting, which means that we're now investing in new equipment. So we could be letting it sit on the shelf and just using what we want. It's like Danny said, it's talking to your suppliers. So this new technology that I've just found is from Netherlands randomly. They're very good at being really green. And I found this amazing special effects company that are making these new technology, which is a lot more greener. And it's about you as a company going, fine, I'll spend the money and get all these new equipment in the workplace. So we're a lot more environmentally friendly. It's a long term, it'll be more cost effective for productions. We have batteries, that's very costly. We can't expect Sparks to supply them. So you as a company have to buy the batteries now, where Danny said, I am talking to other special effects companies to find out, because it's all about collecting information, because it's really hard to research. So it's good to find out from other special effects companies on which are the best batteries, what ones are you using on set. So then you can invest in those, and then we try them out on time and what works better. So, it is having that conversation with everyone to make a difference.
And also, go ahead.
Sorry.
I was saying
Oh,
you're in Cardiff there and Wales,
yeah.
and of course Wales, as you mentioned before, has got there's this Green New Deal for Wales that BAFTA Albert has helped push forward, and so it seems like there's a lot of synergy, if that's the right word,
Yeah, yeah.
in the companies there that you can kind of talk to each other and trade ideas.
There's a really good champion. Tilly's amazing. She worked for Seven Screen. You probably know her, Neil. She's
That's Tilly
amazing.
Ashton.
Yeah, Tilly Ashton is amazing. Tilly and Colt Cymru and the Welsh government have invested quite a lot. They are speaking to people, finding out what we're doing. You have sustainability coordinators. They did the Green Lancer courses. They're working with Albert. So I probably think, as a whole, they are brilliant. Also, the bottle yard, the studio's amazing. They're really good for the sustainability. But then I went to Space Studios the other day and they're all looking at it. So
Yeah.
you are looking at studios, productions, and suppliers now, all
Yeah.
having to talk and work together and champion wanting to make a change.
Yeah, I think you even notice it on a visual sense, like at lunchtime, because you get like all these different bins next to catering. You get the food, no meat Mondays. You get, I mean, I'm comparing my environmental thing by lunch, but no,
Yeah,
you
well,
can
that's a
definitely,
big thing.
yeah, I mean, you could definitely see the note, and all the wonderful people Carmela just mentioned. They're making sure you put your rubbish in the right section, and and it's great. It's also very, when you work in a pressured environments, filmmaking as well. It's nice to see these people are obviously really care and want to make a difference. And I just wanted to touch on some of the technologies that we're using at the moment. And one of the things that we're really going to press on with, and being a special effects guy, I love to evolve and build kit and think, okay, well, I want something that no one else has got. And we're looking at converting all of our petrol wind machines into battery electric. Looking at the
Mhm.
technology, trying to see if we can build huge wind machines with batteries and stuff like that. But that's my engineering heads. How can we press this? How can we push on and think, do you know what, let's build this. And again, that has a financial impact, but yeah, it's kind of building something no one else has got.
Well, I mean, I guess that is, filmmaking in some way. It's like, okay, you do things, there's a right way of doing things and a
Yeah,
wrong way of doing things. You do things this way
yeah,
and you don't change it. And then when you need to innovate, you have these engineering problems that a lot of people can jump on and solve. So you have
yeah,
I
yeah.
guess, these leaps forward.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's why I got into film. I don't want to go to work and it be the same every day. I want to wake up sometimes and go, right, I'm going to build this thing that no one else has got. So I did that recently with a big cannon that we've been using and stuff like that. I have these crazy ideas that my boys in the workshop go, oh God, what's up with him today? What's he come up with over the weekend? And but yeah, no, it is a passion. It's great. I mean, look, I own a special effects company. I like challenges. I like problems. I like to overcome them. If I didn't, then I would own I don't know, a normal company.
Mhm. Well, it's you're talking right. You're
Oh,
talking
sorry.
about going to Spain, and and Spain is going to be. I'm just reading recently is becoming desertified.
Mhm.
It's going to be desert in by 2050. A lot of Spain.
Oh wow.
And so they're like, okay, we've got to get on this, to just
Yeah.
at least sort of hold that desert back as much as they can. So,
Yeah.
I think that internationally as well, that there's different regions are going to be affected by climate change in different types of ways, and so
Yeah.
that, again, I think probably communicating internationally would seem like a real help.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. I mean, we get the opportunity to go abroad a lot to film. I'm off at the weekend actually working abroad. Um, and it's nice to see how other countries are taking on these challenges. Some better than most. I'd like to think that the UK are sort of leading the way. America as well. The UK and America pretty much coexist in some of the industry. They are, that is the industry,
Hmm.
so to speak, arguably. But it's nice that they're both on equal levels in terms of trying to resolve this, I guess, and come up with new ways of doing better on set.
Um, so what about, I mean, what kind of things do you need to know from producers? You talked, Carmela, you talked a little bit about it, but that, I mean, every sustainability kind of coordinator I talk to says, that you need to you have to be thinking about stuff in the script stage, that they hear so many things where it's like, make it sustainable. And it's like, well, we can only do so much. You really should have thought of this quite a long time ago. So like from the special effects point of view, what is it, what helps you?
It is the planning stage. You have to be there from the start. Like Danny mentioned, you can't have someone come to you straight after and say, right, what are you going to do? But they've already built the set. And you're like, well, we could have done this for you and we could have done this. And have you thought about the materials that you were using? So it's having the special effects company from even some script stages. I know, Danny, when we recently did Doctor Who, and I can say it because we filmed it, we used foam snow, because they're very good at looking at their environment. So Danny had conversations right from the start saying, right, this is going to be a massive area. What are we going to do? But it was because it was from the start stages that they could look at the locations. We could look at what effects, what machinery, what we were going to do that's going to be environmentally kind of better for it. So it's not calling us up on a Friday night and saying, I need an effect. It's starting from script stage and writing something in that we can then be part of it from the start. And then it's not just us. I've seen quite a lot of people now recycling sets. It's getting construction there from the start as well. When you're building a set, where's it come from? Did you look at, have we got them before? Is there storage? There's so many set companies now that are recycling their sets and the materials. And if we work with them, then it helps as well, because then we look at what we've got. Because a lot of effects that we've done recently, not that we did before, but we are literally bringing them down and breaking the materials down right down to screws and bits and pieces that you are looking at. It's practically a full-time job for someone when we've done an effect, bringing it back to base and making sure it's recycled. Have we crushed cans? Have we done this? Wales have 5 brand new bins now. We've got a whole new recycling system in law now in Wales, which helps because mentally people are doing it at home. And now they know they're doing it in the workplace because it's compulsory. So I think that's really made a difference for us. I don't know if you want to tap in on anything else, Danny. And that's what I've definitely noticed.
I mean, absolutely in conceptual stages, but I think it's important to say that we don't ever want to compromise a script based on sustainability, because we want directors and producers to be creative. I don't want ever a producer to say, oh, I don't want to do that because our sustainability will go through the roof. So in order to react to that, it's getting the production involved at an early stage and coming up with solutions so that we don't cancel the creativity, or if a set is so big that's being built, instead of throwing it away, let's reuse that set. Let's chop it down or recycle it or give it to another production and make them, or whatever. So there's definitely ways that or different ways that productions now have to consider those things. But I definitely wouldn't want to sort of get on a production and they go, oh, we can't do that because of this, we're going to get killed by it. Let's find a solution. Let's what can we do with this? How can we all work with you? I really want to keep this in. I really do want that big burning effect of fire. How do we do that? And so my role now is learning more about environmental ways of creating that big fire.
Yeah, or I guess, and finding them things maybe they wouldn't have thought of before. Is that also something?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it may be like fire, maybe the default, well, that's a big fire there because I know you guys do fire, so what is fire? But there may be something that you could sort of say, well, have you thought about XYZ?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, totally. I mean, there's different ways for me to do big fire explosions. I can use pyrotechnics with petrol, or I can use propane gas to create the similar type of effect. So one is obviously better than the other. But it's educating the director what we could use or production and coming up with, okay, well, we can do this. I mean, normally it's down to a budget conversation, but again, sustainability now is in the room. So we
Mhm.
do have to consider that as well. So when we present a present an effect, we say, well, look, this is what this is what we can do with this. And, you know, on an environmental level, this is the impact, and, you know, this is what's happening. So
Mm.
yeah, it's just having that conversation.
I think it's where also, Danny, what you said about money, the line producer coming on board as well. You know, we're on a great production at the moment, and they're producing a green newsletter. So it's letting you know what all the other
Mm.
departments are doing as well. And that's something like your line producer and your sustainability person brings in, and it keeps you aware every month what other departments are doing and bringing those
Mm.
on board.
Yeah,
And you can
totally.
start going, oh, I didn't realize we could do that. We should do that. That thing that,
Yeah.
you know, whatever they're doing over there. The
Yeah.
so the on visual effects, the visual effects versus special effects front. Uh,
The age old competition, yes.
um, and I mean, have you looked at? I mean, one of the things that and we have a lot. We do a lot of talk about clouds and stuff, and on the Flint, we've done a few webinars about that. But you know, when you're doing visual effects, you are very often doing many versions of a thing. You know, at high resolutions that are stored, you know, in multiple servers around, and those are things that they're burning electricity constantly. And then you may not even use that at all, you know. So I know there's a an open university, I believe, um, paper that is on Star Wars and the sort of old Star Wars movies and kind of the physical effects versus the digital effects. And they were kind of looking to sort of see what was the most sustainable, and it wasn't actually clear because of all
Okay.
that electricity you're burning with visual
I
effects.
would like to see that actually,
Yeah.
because I get asked that all the time, and people say to me, "Well, visual effects is more environmentally friendly, so let's not do that bullet here," you know. So
But I mean, it's like probably everything. There's like a lot of nuance, but it'd be interesting to hear what kind of conversations you're having around that.
yeah, I mean, I think there was a report recently which kind of made me so angry. It was. I mean, you might have to help me comment, or maybe I'm not allowed to say this, but
I know
there
what
was
you're about to say, and no, you're not allowed to say
come on now.
So
Can
if
you
that helps,
talk around it?
Okay. So I can't say where it was from, but I think the recommendations from an environmental report was to say use visual effects where possible instead of special effects because of the impact on the environment. So I obviously went a bit cross about that because, you know, that's a whole industry, that's a whole department, you know. So my guys obviously may lose out to a day, a week, a month's work because people think that building stuff in a computer is more environmentally friendly. Now, again, it's just coming back to that kind of education with producers. Let's find different solutions. Let's work with visual effects. Let's give you something. Let's keep moving forward. And so I think to say, right, use visual effects instead of special effects, I think that's really off. I just think that is just not uneducated. It's just slightly uneducated. Let's work with that people. Let's offset. Let's have that conversation. So don't cancel special effects.
Hmm. No, I
it,
think, well,
it's
my understanding is that there's a lot of nuance, and if it's going to be,
Yeah.
you know, me adding you know, adding a fire in a fireplace in Adobe After Effects versus building that fire in real life, you know, just do the After Effects, you know.
Mm.
You know, if it's going to be like for my short film or something. But then I think there's when you get to the scale of, um, you know, a lot of big movies where there's, you know, dozens and dozens of people working on a single effect. Um, Again, that's being reversioned and reversioned and reversioned over and over and over. That those numbers aren't really clear. So
Yeah.
um, yeah, and because the, you know, the hyperscalers and the cloud companies, it's very hard to find out what's going on, and that those numbers aren't really clear too. So it's yeah, I think a lot more research needs to be done on that.
100%.
And so also to kind of shift gears a little bit, Carmela, we talked a bit about a initiative that you had started, Kit for Crew. Um, and maybe we can talk a little bit about
yeah.
kind of how that got kicked off and kind of what that is.
So this started during the writer strike. Everyone was obviously a little bit quiet, bits and pieces. Both myself, Danny is a Bec2 graded supervisor, and I sit on the Bec2 board in Wales. And it came from a welfare facility officer came in, and we were having a big meeting about crew welfare and how it's been affected people after COVID. And now we've had the writer's strike, and we spoke about new trainees and coming on set. And it became apparent that people are coming on set kind of not dressed correctly. Yeah, they're not prepared. They're just, you're getting trainees, and not even trainees. I've had a lot of people recently, the weather's changed. What we're doing is very anonymous. I'm not going to pinpoint a department or anything, but what we've discovered is the lack of the living crisis has affected people. People are catching up from COVID, and people are coming on set with maybe trainers or not proper jackets. So we came up with an initiative called Kit for Crew. Now, Kit for Crew is Real SFX has powered it completely. We have no sponsorship or anything at the moment. But as I said to you the other day, it's become so popular because we've had so many productions and so many people that have come on board thinking it's a brilliant idea. And it is a brilliant idea. It's industry people giving back to industry. So how it works is we have Kit for Crew bins on set, and people are recycling their old workwear. And I'm talking, I don't know how many crew jackets we had of yours, Danny, from the last 20 years, but very good crew jackets that a crew member can have, or weather gear, or a lot of fleeces. And it is literally just workwear. And how it works, it's got a barcode on the box. It's anonymous. It comes back to Real SFX headquarters, and it's all about recycling material. Now, at the time, I did actually think it was going to be used workwear. And I've got to be honest, the one thing that we have learned from this is a lot of workwear that is wasted on set. So a lot of gloves that have been brought for construction, or makeup, or costumes. So we've had a lot of recycling materials that have been brought in and donated that are brand new as well. So we can't call it now unused workwear, because it's actually sustainable. We're just bringing it back out, and people are coming and knocking on our door and saying, look, I've got a night shoot coming up, can you help me out? And then and then they might just donate it back, and it has to come back clean. But it's amazing. It's in every studio in Wales. It's at Bottle Yard. It's down in Manchester. We've had requests from Glasgow. And it's literally students, locations, people, very anonymous. And we're doing case studies on that actually at the moment, Neil, because it has definitely been an eye-opener on what wastage is being used, not just used workwear, but new workwear that's been brought, that, where have all these gloves come from? They were like, oh, we bought it for this, and then we put it in a crew sale and no one wanted them. So they've been brought back, and they're going to new trainees that are trying to get back into the industry. So we've got really good relationships with training providers in Wales. So when new recruits come in, they go to Kit for Crew, and they get to see what they want, and it kind of kits them out ready for their start in life in TV and film, in a sustainable way, which is brilliant.
Yeah, that is. So, I mean, is it just trainees, or can anyone?
No. It's basically anyone who wants it. I mean, I've stood on a film set for 30 years, in all sorts of conditions. I've had rain coming up from the floor. It's been that bad, So, and I see these youngsters on set trying to get into the industry, and there's a real financial different end of the spectrum, where you've got dare I say it, directors, DPs, even special effects supervisors, shall we say, on a high-end rate, and then you have the runners there in their white trainers and no waterproofs. And I always used to feel sorry for them. They're always on set, they're always making sure everyone else has got cups of teas, coffees, but who's looking after them? But then obviously you mix that in with the cost of living crisis. There's people that haven't worked for a long time. The strikes, so people are going back to work maybe after a year, 6 months, something doesn't quite fit, or the jacket they can't find. So again, it's just really tapping into that. So it's not just trainees, it's for people who may not work for a while and can't really afford that £100 jacket,
And I would imagine that it would be, if you've worked for a while, you might be embarrassed to say that you need stuff.
100%. It's a completely anonymous thing. And look, I mean, we're trying to work it out at the moment, because we're trying to find the right system to do it. It's totally 100% funded by Real SFX. You know, we haven't got any sponsors at the moment, unless anyone wants to help. So each bin costs a certain amount of money, which we're funding and sending across the UK at the moment. So, like I said, it's grown exponentially. I mean, it's an idea that I had in a meeting, and it everyone just got on board with it, to be honest. And we've actually, what have we just been nominated for as well? Best startup business or something? Is that what?
Yeah, it's not even a business or a charity. It's best startup and green company of the year. We find out this Friday. So
yeah, what is that for, and what awards?
For the Wales Business Awards. So we've just been nominated, and it's only been going 6 months, and we're like, wow, this is amazing.
I know.
But I think it's really important to say it definitely isn't trainees. We say it's anonymous. I get to meet them. Harry, our son, he's doing Kit for Crew because it's obviously funded from us at the moment. So he's a real good champion for it at the moment. But it really isn't. I met a lovely person recently, and she's got a family background. She's coming back into the industry after being out of work. She's just on maternity. She's kept touching her toes back into the TV world to find out if she wants to go back, but she couldn't afford the kit. So we kitted her completely out. So it isn't just trainees. It's really important. So it's a welfare thing as well for people, because it really is hard when you're going back into a new career and you don't know if you want to, and you don't want to spend all that money. So it's a really good initiative that gets people back into it and without spending the money. And it's recycling clothes, and it's industry led. Like, I've got every studios in Wales are on board. We've got them, and that's what I said about people coming back.
Oh,
oops!
Oh, we lost Carmela.
Lost you there, Carmela.
Ah, she's there somewhere.
Gone.
Oh, there you go.
I'll be back in a second.
Bring your camera back on, darling.
Is it gone?
Yeah, I can just, I can't see you.
We can hear you, but we can't see you.
Super passionate. We lost her. Yeah, so it came from just a conversation, and yeah, it was there you are. Hi, darling. So yeah, I mean, it's, you know, we're really blown away how popular it's been, and to think that I didn't know that story actually, Carmela, to be fair, and that's also really nice to hear that lady is really kitted out. So that's great. That's really worked.
Amazing. But we can't hear you, Carmela.
Oh, your mic, Carmela, can't hear you. There we go. No,
No, still can't hear.
Hello. No. No.
It's because there's a thunderstorm in Wales that's just happened. I think the whole internet just dropped.
Oh, no.
No worries. So yeah, it's no, we're really proud of it. So yeah, to have it in every studio around the UK would be an ambition. And again, you know, on a cost level, again, it's funded by us. So you know, it's just the commitment that we've made, really, to try and help out new people coming in the industry and people that need it the most.
Amazing. So what's next for you guys for Real FX? What do you have coming up?
So we're working a variety of different shows, actually. Two are very environmentally based, actually. So I'm working on at the moment The War Between the Land and the Sea, which is Russell T Davies, and it's about pollution, about the sea creatures coming back to the land and throwing all their. I mean, obviously, I'm kind of abbreviating it. It's a wonderfully led drama, but they're bringing back all the pollution from the sea and letting all land dwellers deal with it, and that's the war. So that's very topical. The other one we're involved in is Under the Salt Marsh, which again is about pollution, climate change. So that's again very good. We've got many different productions at the moment. I'm up here in Glasgow just on technical recce's. But I guess probably one of the most exciting things that we are doing is opening up at the Bottle Yard Studios. We're opening a new workshop there. Bottle Yard Studio is a fantastic facility, very environmentally conscious. But it just seemed to us it was a great place for us to have Real SFX, our second base, a dual base. And I think moving forward over the next 5 years, my thing would be to open a regional special effects company in most of the major cities in the UK. So we've got an office in Birmingham, which we'd like to grow as a potential more permanent base. looking at Liverpool, looking at Manchester. Again, more of a permanent base. I'm up here in Glasgow at the moment. So, we're steaming on, So, and again, that kind of helps with, again, environmentally finding crews around the area in the UK. We haven't got to travel long ways and stuff like that. So yeah, that seems to be. Am I missing anything, Carmela? What other big
No,
news?
I think that's where, you're correct. We've got a lot of crew that were based in Bristol and they were coming to Cardiff. So that's why, but we were doing Bristol productions. So it was a natural progression to open up because we looked at what the environmental impact was and we were like, well, this is silly. They're coming to go back. So that was one of the reasons why we opened Bristol. And that's kind of where we want to go, isn't it? We want to make sure that our crew are based in their own home, working from their own production. So that kind of has seemed to work in Cardiff, and we want to kind of regionally pop that.
But also, I think training as well is something that we love to do. Moving away from the environmental slightly, training is something that we've always loved to do. Whenever I've worked in the world, I've always worked with local team members as part of my team. I worked a lot in up here in Scotland. I set up Outlander 10 years ago. That's grown massively, brought in trainees there. Again, up in Manchester, for me and for Carmela about training, it's a big thing for us. So getting new people in the industry from a young level, but also on a personal level, I love to upskill. So, people that generally think, do you know what, I don't want to work here anymore. I want to work in special effects. So we like to retrain people as well. So and again, it's just bringing people into what we do, which is special effects, which is the greatest department of all time.
Amazing. Well, great. Well, thank you so much. That's a great way to end it. And good luck with Kit for Crew, and be really interesting to check in, in a year, 6 months even, and just kind of see what what new things have come up, and especially around sustainability. Yeah. I think it's a question that we're all is gonna affect everything that we do in work, and it's gonna be really interesting to see how it affects you guys.
And if there's anyone in the US that wants a Kit for Crew thing out there, let's get it across the pond. Let's get it out there. So yeah.
I can imagine there's a lot of brand new gloves sitting around in studios in Hollywood.
Yeah. So if anyone wants to come forwards, we'd be more than happy to help.
Amazing.
Great stuff.
Well, thank you so much, you two.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Cheers.